In order to program Excel using VBA, it is necessary to activate the developer menu on the Workbooks ribbon. We do this via File, Options, Customize ribbon, and we will select Developer. We are now able to access the code window via the developer menu on the ribbon. Excel programming is a great deal easier than you might imagine. There are essentially 4 elements: an object, which is a thing. We can equate it to a noun. For instance, sheets, sheet 1. Then we have methods, which are doing words or doing elements, such as a verb. Sheets 1, activate, in other words, do something. Range A4 to C24, clear contents. And a property is a description, like an adjective. It's always followed by equal sign. So we know that the sheets 1 name equals basics. The value of range A4 could be start here. And finally we have variables, where we set up space in memory to place values that we can use later. Variables are created in code with the keywords dim or public. Let's have a look at these. First of all, we need to find the code window, and we do that either with Alt F11, or we will pick Developer, Visual Basic. As you can see, Alt F11 we can use as an alternative. So we choose Visual Basic, and up comes the code window. This is our new spreadsheet called Book 1. And in order to create a code window for Book 1, we would have to insert a module or use a form. There is the module where we can do our coding. We do programming in subroutines. We would start each one with a sub and give it a name, and hit enter, and Excel automatically puts in end sub. Our code goes in between the sub and the end sub. Here we will put the code that will start to manipulate the workbook. For instance, there we have a method, which, as we said before, is a doing word. We want to activate sheet 1. So let's see how this works. Let's go here and put a new sheet called sheet 2. And on sheet 2, we're going to go to the Developer tab. We're going to pick the Insert. And here we have a number of controls. Form controls are intrinsic to Excel. We're not going to worry about ActiveX controls at the moment. They're used by a variety of programs and little self-contained programs of their own, which Excel can use. So we're going to concentrate only on form controls, and we're going to pick a button. I'm going to draw the button on the form, and it asks me which program do I want to connect to this button, and I'm going to say our first program must be connected to the button. OK. So now I click off that. If I come to this button 1, you can see we've activated sheet 1. Let's go back again and have a closer look at the actual code. We say edit. F9 is a breakpoint. So we can go back to our spreadsheet and hit button 1 and you'll see the program stops here. Bam. Next thing, in the debug menu you can see that F8 is step into the next line. So let's press F8 and it says sheets 1 activate, and that's the moment you can see sheet 2 is activated. But if I press F8 to move the program on, sheet 1 is activated. It's as simple as that. Next, we can use a property to change the active sheet's name or sheet 1's name. But at the moment, if it's the active sheet, we can simply change its name. Its name equals main. So let's try that again. We go to sheet 1, we press button 1, F8, F8, F8. Its name is now main. This is a fairly pointless example, but it's to show you how to use a method and how to use a property which describes an object. Here we're describing the active sheet's name as main. Since we don't need to be too explicit and sheet 1 no longer exists, we can simply say sheets number 1 activated and give it the name of main. So let's see how that would work. Button 1, F8, sheets 1 activate, call it main. It's already called main, it doesn't matter, but there we don't have sheets 1 anymore because it doesn't exist, so it had merely taken the first sheet. All that is simple enough. We've used the first 3 elements: object, method, property, by using sheets, sheet 1, activate, change its name. Now we come to variables. Let's have a closer look at variables and the scope of variables. Variables, as stated, is like a pigeonhole in memory where we put values we want to use later. Variables are created and destroyed as the program runs, according to their scope. So let's have a look at scope. Here we declare a variable as public, which means it can be used across modules. At the moment we've created a module 1, but we can create many modules, and if we say public, the string username is available to other modules. If we use the word dim, the variable is available only during this particular module. And here, if we declare the variable here within a subroutine, it's created when the sub starts and destroyed when the sub ends. So in other words, we can't use it outside of this particular sub. And there again, created when the sub starts, destroyed when the sub ends, because it is declared within the sub. Right, let's look at a bit of coding with variables. I have a little pre-program here. Variable example. If I press that, the code runs and it says Shakespeare is 365.67 years old today. So how did we do that? Let's examine the code. Option explicit forces the declaration of all variables. This is a very useful thing to have, because if you misname a variable somewhere in the program and it hasn't been declared, you'll get an error message saying this variable does not exist. And so it cuts down your mistakes. We'll see a bit later how this works. The apostrophe creates a comment so we can understand our program a little better. Here we declare the variables. We're declaring something called string name as string, double age as a double, includes decimal places, a double, string and a date, DTE as date. We populate the variables within the code. As you can see, we're in the sub example variables. So when the sub starts, these variables are declared and they will last as long as the sub runs. We populate the variables. In string name, we're moving the word Shakespeare. Date of birth, we're moving his date of birth. His age is now going to be now, which is a built-in Excel function that gives the date and time right now, minus his date of birth, divided by 365.25. Gives us a pretty good result for Shakespeare's age. And finally, we have a string period. We're formatting the double age as standard, which is 2 decimal places. And finally, we report to the user message box. String name is the string period, years old today, and our program ends. Now you can see that I've placed some program code behind this particular arrow, which is called variable example. If I right click on the arrow and I say assign the macro, it's already assigned, there it is. So I'll say edit that, and here is the actual program. So let's have a look at this program as it runs. What we're going to do is we're going to run through to this point and we're going to stop, whereupon you can then examine the variables by moving the mouse over them. So let's see how this works. We run the program, and the program has stopped. We can now see what's in here. I've moved the cursor over here and it says Shakespeare is in this particular variable. In this one here, the date of birth is 1654/04/23, which is a date. Here it's worked out his age. It's taken now minus the date of birth divided by 365.25. Finally, we have the period, which would be his age in this particular case. We're formatting the age as standard, which is one of the cell formats in Excel, 2 decimal places. Here I seem to have done it twice. Not a problem. So the program has stopped. Now the program will continue, and I'm going to use, if you remember, the step into the F8 for the next thing. Sheets variables activate. That's going to activate the variable sheet. F8. And here we're going to say Shakespeare is 365 years old today. What I've done is I've taken this variable, concatenated it with the string is, concatenated it with the number of how old he is, concatenated with years old today. F8, there we go. Shakespeare is 365.7 years old today. And there we exit the sub. Don't worry about this other information here. Later we will cover other aspects of Excel. There I've forced an exit sub. Otherwise we could have just removed all of this, and after the message box it would have hit end sub and stopped. The next thing we'll look at is decision branching. We can see here that if the weather's sunny, then we're going to put out a message saying go to the beach. If the weather's overcast, we're going to give it a message go to a movie, and so on. And finally, if it's none of the others, we'll just get drunk. And then it's going to display the message in a message box. So let's run this code. The first thing it says is get drunk, which means that there's obviously nothing much in our string weather variable, because it has taken the else. So let's try this one. Let's change this to it's sunny. If it's sunny, we're going to expect the message to say go to beach, and so it does. Or we can try this one, which is it's freezing. Okay. Select is another means of making a decision. We saw if, else. We can also use select the case of the weather. If the case is sunny, message go to beach. Case is overcast, go to movie. Case is freezing, go to bed. Case else, get drunk. And then we will show the message. So let's actually step through this. The string weather, it's picked it up off the spreadsheet. Freezing. That's sheet, lists, range C2. There's lists, range C2 is freezing. So this variable has now been populated from the lists sheet, range C2. And then we're going to see what is in string weather. If the case is sunny, select case string weather. If the case is sunny, go to the beach. If it's overcast or the movie, if freezing, go to bed. So we're going to go F8. Is the case sunny? No. Case overcast? Case freezing? Yes. So move go to bed into the message, which at the moment is blank. And now look at the message. You see it's go to bed is now stored therein. And then we're going to show the message, go to bed. And then I'm doing other things here on the decision sheet. I'm taking the drop down menu 2 and making it invisible. But we won't worry about the rest of this right now. Finally, in this introductory section, we're going to have a look at looping. A loop is where the program goes round and round and round until a particular condition is met. So basically, what we do is we create a variable which we're going to call I for iteration. We can call it anything we like. It's an integer which is a round number. I equals 1 to the sheets count. In other words, Excel is going to go from 1 to however many sheets there are. So this could go from 1 to 6, in fact. And if the sheet index number is not equal to loop, we'll make it invisible. It goes round and round and round until the iteration is finished. For I, next I, goes round and round. And what we then do is we're going to change this button. Anyway, let's have a look. We press hide the sheets, and they're all gone except for loop. Because we've gone round and round and we've made every sheet, it's visible, is false if its name is not loop. And we've changed the button. Button, instead of saying hide, now says show sheets. So let's have a look at exactly what's going on behind here. I'll pick show sheets, and it stops because I've put stop in there. We examine what is happening in the code by pressing F8. So let's go F8. For I equals 1 to sheets.count. Well, sheets.count is 10, so there are 10 sheets in this particular workbook altogether. I'm going to go from 1 to sheets.1 to 10. If the sheets and the index number or the iteration number is not equal to loop, then show it. So sheets 1 name is actually menu. I did a quick watch to see what was in there, and menu is in there. So it's not equal to loop, we're going to make it visible equals true. So we go here, and now suddenly the menu sheet is visible, and then it will loop to sheet 2. And if sheet 2 I is now set at 2, name is not equal to loop, then make it visible. And so we will go round and round and round and round and round. And when we're finished, we're going to make the hide button visible, and we're going to make the unhide button invisible. So I'm now going to continue. You can either press that or press F5. We continue, and all the spreadsheets are once again visible. And the button is once again called hide sheets. So let's look what we've covered so far. We have used the object, sheet 1. We used a method, which is like a verb, to do something. Activate sheet 1. We used a property to describe a sheet. And we have created variables. Now we have created a variable called string name, And here we have populated the variable. We've had a look at decision loops, if else. We're saying if the weather is sunny, well, first of all, get the weather from that object, range C2. So this is the object we're getting it from. The string weather is sunny, else if it's that, else if it's that, else. Finally do that and report to the user. And finally, we went through one iteration. For I equals 1 to something, 20, 30. In this particular case, we wanted to count the number of sheets in the workbook. Went round and round and round, hiding the sheets as we went along. That's all for this section, and we'll look at coding in more detail in the next module.